Okay, folks, I'm back. This is the Zigman. The Zigman Jams on Anchor by Spotify. Also, you can find us on Spreaker, Patreon, Podbean, Apple Music, Google Play, and many other host sites that we will feature podcasts and content that matters. So, you know what? I just wanted to finish up here. I wanted to come back and I'm going to do probably another 30 minutes. I want to talk about something else, but I want to mention something really quickly from the last podcast that I didn't mention. I went on and I just kind of was perusing through some more information. And, of course, of date and of late, many people have been talking about the Deion Sanders departure from Jackson State. And I was giving you what I thought was relevant for his departure and why I think that he made the right decision. But what I didn't know at the time was during the game celebration and win and what have you, unbeknownst to him, when they came back in to celebrate and he was being presented the winning football for the game. Do you know? This is why I say our people, we are so messed up. Do you know, while they were on the field and before they got back to the locker room, where the football, obviously football players, coaches, so forth, come back to celebrate, and someone went into his locker and stole everything that he had. And they specifically targeted Deion. Because, people are watching you. They seen the bling that you wear, and of course they didn't get what he had around his neck. But he said they stole his wallet, stole his watch, stole the skull caps that he had in his locker to go on his head. They stole everything. And obviously, he had his license, his everything in there. And so, it's, what can you say about our people? We're terrible. We're just the lowest of the lowest sometimes. When and you can blame it on a lot of different things. But that just comes from being a lowlife. I don't care what you say. It ain't no education for that type of shit. You can't educate somebody to de-thief them or to make them not be a thief. And I know we're always talking about, well, our people need to be educated in this area. We need to have education for this and education for that. Education is not the key to everything. Some shit is just plain old golden rule type. This is the line. I don't cross that. I don't do that kind of stuff. I don't steal from people. No matter who they are, white, black, Chinese, Asian, Indian, Mexican. I just don't steal from people. That's not my makeup. I don't steal. I just don't steal from people. And they went in his locker and stole everything. So, and he was really pissed off, which he has a right to be. And so with that being said, we're going to move on. And of course, I hope they implicate and I hope they catch the individual or individuals who did it, because obviously they were watching him. And to me, it sounds like, I don't know if I want to say it's an inside job, which I kind of don't really believe, but at the same time, you don't know. But obviously there was somebody that was like, okay, they was watching him and they was watching him say, okay, so when they leave and they go out on the field, we gonna get inside and we gonna do our thing. And it's unfortunate, like I said again, that our people are that way. Okay, but this is what we're going to be talking about next. Some of you may be aware of the fact that they're talking about giving, California's talking about giving reparations to indigenous people, black people, whatever term you want to use. Well, not whatever term you want to use, because you might call us something that we don't like, which we have been, but to black folks. And it looks like they may, with this study that they currently have, they may be the first state to actually do it. And I was looking at the news on the other day, and I was looking at this, and it was saying how California could soon give reparations to black people. Here's what that looks like. And this is what they were talking about. They were talking about after publishing a sweeping historical account linking black oppression from slavery era to systemic racism today, the California Reparations Task Force now faces its most challenging task, figuring out the structure and the cost of a reparations plan for descendants of enslaved people. Okay, and they have, excuse me, in a 500-page interim report, it talks about the task force had laid out a detailed history of slavery and, Jim Crow segregation and continuing discrimination, and how it created, structural racism that persists, as we all know. It hasn't really gone anywhere. And they've talked about the evidence, of this huge wealth gap between black and white Americans. Obviously, again. And it said the panel had discussed in its report to recognize, they recognized this thing on Thursday when the California legislature memorializes Juneteenth, a federal holiday commemorating the emancipation of enslaved Americans. Meanwhile, across the country, Washington, D.C., a coalition of civil and human rights groups will hold a Juneteenth press conference to call on President Joe Biden to issue an executive order to develop reparations proposals. Now, what my thinking is I kind of think that, because we have many groups talking about reparations. They even had this group when I was in Detroit in 2020 and 2021. I spent some time in Detroit, and they had this group there that were talking about reparations, and they had this website asking people to go on and to put in their information, which I did. And at this time, they was talking about people were going to get $100,000, and all this kind of stuff. And I really don't know what became of that group. I don't know if they kind of faded away in the, or if there was kind of any infighting, or they just weren't organized, because they were actually, at that time, they were trying to get all the information together. But as we all know, that there are many groups now who are on this reparations bandwagon. And a lot of them I don't agree with, because structurally, they don't have their things in order. So, because I think it would do our people a disservice if you, and I talked about this before, some of you may remember, when I talked about reparations before, how I think that it would do us a disservice to just start handing out checks. Because what we will do is we will just spend those checks and give the money right back to to the economy, and we'll spend the money foolishly, which is really what I'm trying to say, rather than having a structured apparatus where we can create generational wealth, which is really important. Which means schools, which means our own grocery stores, which means creating farms, donating to our black farmers, um, creating a couple of banks. Uh, so if we're given the tune of, because California is talking about just 2.5 million people, African people, black folks that are in California, and the estimation that they came up with is they're talking about 500 and what is it? As I was looking at this, it's like 569 billion. Okay, and that's just for California. Okay, so if we're talking about 569 billion just for California, that's just one state. So that's $500 billion right there. That's over $500 billion. Okay, so that's like crazy money. So it behooves us, and of course there should be all types of professional people in place to not only counsel but to manage what am I trying to say? You need counselors in place. You need money managers in place. You need consultants in place. You need teachers in place. We need all these people that are in place so that these dollars are not squandered. Okay? And okay, so it talks about also, it says financial reparations within an apology, okay, would acknowledge an impressive history and show an effort to atone necessary elements for reconciliation, said California State Senator Steve Bradford, a member of the task force. It will never make people whole who are the descendants of slaves, but understanding that America and California does owe a debt to African Americans is significant, he said, which is true. This is a debt still owed to African Americans who built this country. And they're acknowledging, we built this country. We built it. The blood of our ancestors are still crying from the ground. Okay? We built this country, built Washington, D.C. We made this country solvent like we did the world. Not just this country. We made the world solvent. Okay? And we can go into a whole history dynamic with that, but we're not going to do that. Okay? So, of course, there needs to be things that are in place to make this happen. And, I don't think the way to go, as I mentioned several times, is to start throwing out checks like they did with the stimulus stuff. Okay, because people out there, and they were going buying Jordans and buying sneakers and buying TVs and buying, and the money's gone. So there has to be these programs in place to do that, so that it makes sense. Because think about this. It's really a shame how that this country gives money to everybody else. The Ukrainians, the United States just gave Ukraine, it's like what, 50 billion? I mean, really? They're giving, because this country we say we're broke, but there's surplus sitting around somewhere because money's being printed. Okay? And so it's amazing how they're giving away. That's really our money. That's our money that this country is giving to other people. Now, here's the thing. When this was announced, don't you know? See, because everybody, once they talk about giving black folks money, you know everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon, right? We do know that, right? There are going to be other people who say they've already given Koreans money. They're giving the Jews money. They've given the Indians, these Mongoloids who call themselves Indians. They didn't gave them billions of dollars, and yet now they're trying to shut out the freedmen people so that they're not allowed to get their money. And everybody benefits. It's amazing how all these different ethnic groups benefit off black folks. They've done little in this country, but they want the most. And they have the gall and the nerve. The gall and the nerve is not, and I'm not saying all people. We know some bad, terrible things have been done to the Koreans, but not like it's been done to us. We know they've been put in internment camps. We know that some Jews have suffered some really terrible things, but it wasn't done in this country. That was done in Germany. Okay? So we know that the Indians who've suffered, but who are the Indians? You're still talking about us. We're not talking about these Mongoloid mixed people who say they was here and want to extract dollars from the government that they didn't really suffer for. So anyway, everybody wants to benefit off the black man and the black woman who built this country, who literally suffered blood, sweat, and tears, all types of heinous crimes, and are still suffering from the same heinous crimes that have been done hundreds of years ago. They're still shooting brothers and sisters down in the street like dogs. And I mean, really, you say to yourself, where does it stop? And then everybody wants to benefit off of your suffering. Now, here's the thing, like I was getting ready to say. When this was announced, don't you know that this monster reared its ugly head? Who was this monster? It was the same people in California who got caught on tape calling black people's monkeys and making all kinds of racial epithets against black people. But here it is, when this was announced, the Mexicans reared their ugly head and said that black people should not get reparations because California did not enslave them. So obviously they don't know nothing about their history, because when the slaves were being freed, we can go back to the 1500s, 1600s, when the slaves were being freed and they were fleeing to the West and they had their freedom, they were being recaptured and being brought back. A lot of them were being put back in slavery. So, I mean, so here it is, the Mexicans talking about, what about us? We want reparations. You got your reparations when you snuck your mama, your daddy, your grandmama, and all your little children in this country illegally. That's your damn reparations. So you need to go somewhere with that. That's your reparations. Right now, your grandmother sitting up in this country collecting Social Security, ain't worked a lick of nothing in this country. And you talking about give you reparations? You kidding me? Give you you ain't gonna get no reparations. You got your reparations when you snuck in here. Okay, when you broke the law. Go back to Mexico and get reparations. Why don't you go ask them to give you reparations? Okay? And still, the way you treat the black Mexicans in Mexico, you treat them badly. And you talking about give you some reparations. You got your reparations when you snuck in here. And some, oh yeah, we work hard. We built the country. We built it. Okay? We built it. There's a difference. You work hard, so you think you deserve You got your reparation when you was allowed to sneak up in here and get houses and all this other stuff that black people who've been here their whole life have been disenfranchised and denied those things that you're getting off of their blood, sweat, and tears. And you better be glad you're here. You're here because of the blood, sweat, and tears off of the African people. And you talking about give you some reparations. You done lost your rabbit ass mind. And this is the thing, folks. Every time black folks in line to get something, you always got these clowns who want to jump in line and try to get in your shine and try to get what's due to you. And they want to so trust me, this is going to be the next thing they're going to be trying to do. Trust me, y'all. They're going to try to rally because they're going to talk about, the Mexican War. Well, you need to go back to Mexico with that. Go ahead, ask Mexico to give you reparations. Okay, so you was in a war with the United States. So what? Okay, you were in a war, but the United States didn't enslave your folks though. Yeah. Really? This is the kind of stuff that just burns me up and makes me upset and I'm good, y'all. But it's like people want to benefit off of what your ancestors suffered for. They have no regard, no respect, no kind of respect, no respect, no respect at all. No respect. And it's terrible. Really? And so this thing is gonna. So we'll see. But here it is. Like I said, this monster reared its ugly head. Okay, it says here, horrors and harms. California says slavery legacy requires comprehensive reparation. And it said something about only direct descendants of and it's a great thing that our people are rallying to, and the legislation has been started by, rest his soul, I think it was John Conyers some years ago, back in the 90s, right? And then it was picked up by other congressional leaders in the Congress, such as who else? Well, there were several. Okay, there were several. So the recommendations will include, and like I said before, I think that it's important that these monies be put in places where it's going to benefit our people, in perpetuity. You know what I'm saying? Where that it creates generational wealth, where your child doesn't have to worry about, how he's going to, or how she's going to be funded when they go to college, or, their health care. They're going to have health care for a lifetime, where they get the best health care, where we can create, like I said, farms, where we can create, probably put, a few banks and give certain amounts of acreage of land where we can create, communities for our people. You know what I'm saying? Because we deserve that. And that would be a great thing. But it has to be structurally sound, where we have the right people in place. So, and all of these charlatans, people who are asking for reparations and don't have a structural apparatus in place so that when these reparations are granted, what do we do with the money? You don't want to entrust this kind of money with people who are just so unorganized and they don't know what the hell they're talking about, or don't know how structurally to put this in place so that this money becomes, so that these funds and this money becomes a vehicle where it creates longevity, where it's going to be in place for the next 100 years, for the next 200 years. Because if they're talking about, when they do the math, because they're talking about 500 and something billion for just 2 million people in California. When we talk about the whole 50 states, we're talking about, some people were saying, some research that I had done prior to this, some people was talking about upwards of $17 trillion. So you imagine what we could do with 17 trillion? But the key is, if we're already wasting 2 trillion per year of spending power that we have, you got to have stuff in place. Yeah. Because if you don't, it'll be a disaster. So, let me know what your thoughts are. I like to know what your thoughts are, and how it is, because they're like I said, they have this in place, these documents on the report, and just briefly, let's see, I can go over just some of it, the tables of content, and I'll give you an idea of briefly what they're talking about. Okay, the task force charge. Okay, I need to enlarge this font some. Let's see. Okay, so it says, what does California owe his black residents? And this font is really small. I'm trying to, I'll just read it as best I can. It says Assembly Bill 31, what is that? 3121, as Weber. It says establish this task force to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. The task force consists of 9 members charged with studying the institution of slavery and its lingering negative effects on society and on living African Americans, including descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. The task force must synthesize documentary evidence of the capture, procurement, and transportation of Africans for the purpose of enslavement, the domestic trade of trafficked African Americans, the treatment of enslaved people, the denial of humanity, and the abuse of African Americans, and the discrimination and lingering negative effects that followed in the colonies and eventually became the United States and the United States of today. The task force must recommend appropriate remedies of compensation, rehabilitation, and restitution. So this is some of the, and of course it talks about the document 3121 authorizes the task force to hold public hearings to pursue its mission in order to inform the contents of the interim report. The task force held 9 public meetings during which it considered public comments, experts, and professional and personal witnesses' testimony, in addition to considering the voluminous materials submitted to the task force via email from those unable to attend the meetings. So, for African Americans, with a special consideration for African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States, the task force recommendation must address how they comport with international standards and how the state of California will apologize for its role in perpetuating gross human rights violations and crimes against humanity on enslaved African Americans and their descendants. Okay, and it goes on and on and on because the document is very, very long. I think they said it's something like I don't know if it's 500 pages that I read before. Well, I didn't actually read that. My mistake. I didn't read no 500 pages. But I'm saying the document is probably that long, and what they were talking about. So there's a lot of information in there that was relevant to this whole outpay. But again, they're like I said before, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be upset, which like we care, and thinking that they can jump on the bandwagon, and every all of a sudden now you're going to get a lot of other people who weren't claiming to be black before. They're going to all of a sudden be black now. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, yeah, I'm black now. Yeah, my mother was a slave. Now you're going to have a lot of these Mexicans saying I'm black now. That's going to be their trick. And other people who wanted to deny being black, all of a sudden you want to be black now because there's money involved. Such disrespect, So anyways, I want to know what your thoughts are. Let us know what you're thinking. And remember to continue to support us and visit us, on Amazon, Anchor by Spotify, Apple Music, Podbean, Spreaker, and many of the host sites as we continue to bring you content. And we're going to pick up on this in our next episode, our next podcast, because there's so much information to share with you that we're not going to leave this undone. So we want to give you the ins and outs of how this is developing and what's coming down the pike, and also remember that we're continuing to put together our book library, and we're going to be doing reads because we stopped it during the summertime because I thought at the time there was more relevant information that I wanted to give you, and that we would kind of put the book readings, aside for right now, which we're going to pick up again, as I mentioned, because we're going to have some great reads for you, and we're going to be doing that. So we encourage you to continue, and if you haven't, please support us. $1 or $2. Just go to our Cash App, Seth Moore, and just drop in $1 or $2. We'll be so grateful for that, okay? So we can continue to do what we do. And eventually, at some point, we're going to go live. And I know a lot of people are more geared towards seeing things as to what they're actually hearing. But hearing is critical. And not just hearing, but listening and understanding and understanding and overstanding. So we look for your support, and we pray that you're preparing for a great holiday with you and your family and friends, and that you're being safe and that you're staying healthy. And as I said before, continue to eat right and keep your mind clear and stay up. So again, let us know what your thoughts are. We'll be speaking with you again very soon. All right. Have a great night. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.